Let's go. Let's go. What are we doing? Why are we not more fired up? Why aren't you guys on my level right now? Lemon, Tony, Jonathan, Marcus, Kyle. We got to talk about RACEY McMATH. Is this actually a good thing for both him and LSU? Also, we also got to talk about the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator search. It seems as if LSU is going to hire, and this is just my best guess, I think that they're going to hire a defensive coordinator before they hire an offensive coordinator. And something very interesting happened today. And it's weird because I didn't think of this sooner. So we say hi to Kane, Dez, Eric, Mike, Mo Funky. So, sometimes you read other people's work, and I do my own research, and I look deep. And a lot of you know that I dive deep when it comes to my videos, okay? And it's interesting because tonight, I didn't think about this. We are competing against the LSU basketball game, where apparently they're doing fine right now against Texas A&M. But this shows me you guys are dedicated to the channel, and I really do appreciate it. Obviously, Super Chat's wide open. Venmo, Cash App is wide open. My hey is cooking tuna steaks tonight, so we're not going to run long. And I'm telling you guys, tuna steaks will change your life. What's up, Huntsville? Nick, Mo Funky, Devin, Overtime, Cody? So, it's I read a lot, and I don't necessarily get to listen, but I do check out other people's work. And what's interesting is that there are so many very good LSU commenters and writers and podcasters. I used to host a podcast called One Team, One Podcast. And it stopped because I got let go by SEC country, and that was because the company was going under. And apparently, there was another One Team, One Podcast that started. Now, I just never really even thought about it, but they were so kind to reach out and say, hey, we weren't trying to steal your name, because my podcast had been wiped off the planet. And that was so kind. So I wanted to throw that out there. They reached out to me today about it. And all I asked in return was for them to get me a tomahawk steak from Rufino's, and they obliged. So I hope they hold on to that. But I always say this. I'm not the only one that does this. There's a lot of people that do really good work. And I was reading 247 earlier today, and I was blown away that there was someone that I liked a lot for the LSU defensive coordinator opening. And sometimes when you're going through names, you just forget someone that would be a great fit for your defense. So last year, I dug really deep when I did my top 10 defensive coordinators for LSU. And for most of you that watched that piece, you saw that I put in a lot of work. I didn't just want to throw names out there. I just wanted to do deep research to see if it actually does fit. And when I actually pushed publish, I thought that there was a name that I forgot. And turns out I forgot him altogether, and he would be a perfect fit at LSU, and it would make a lot of sense. So, for those that don't know, Barry Odom's name was in the search last year for LSU, and they decided to go with, obviously, Bo Pelini. And Barry Odom was the best defensive coordinator in the SEC, and Bo Pelini was the worst. Arkansas's defense was awful the year before. Barry Odom turned them into a pretty good defense, whereas Bo Pelini was awful. And you know how awful I think. Now, some of you would say, well, Bo Pelini deserved another year, and we can have a different discussion about that. But Kane remembers the video, so I did it for Chat Sports. It kind of blew up. It was my biggest video ever on that channel. And I was really proud of that list. And I got so much hate because the rumor was already out there that Bo Pelini was going to be hired as the LSU defensive coordinator. So here was the problem, was that I still had to do the video. And, whenever you're critical of something as big as making a defensive coordinator hire, you better be right. So, I was dead serious. The Bo Pelini thing kept me up at night because I love LSU football. You guys love LSU football more than anything. But it really kept me up at night because I said, there's no way that this is going to work. Okay, there's just no way. And I have a similar feeling with the guy that I said earlier this week in my video that I do not want as the LSU defensive coordinator, and that is Derek Mason. Now, some of you really want Derek Mason, and it makes a lot of sense. He was the best defensive coordinator when he was hired for the Vanderbilt job, and I always say this. He's the most loved guy in the SEC. Everyone loves Derek Mason, and he worked his tail off. And I do know how hard it is to get a head coaching job in the SEC, and Vanderbilt's a dead-end job. I just do not like, in general, hiring fired head coaches. I just don't. So I like hiring someone that is a defensive coordinator. That is, or someone that has not had their defensive coordinator opportunity. So this is why I don't want Derek Mason. I just don't. I don't want Jeremy Pruitt, and I don't want Will Muschamp. I don't want any of those guys. And I know Jeremy Pruitt still has a job. I don't think that's going to last that long. But I don't like a head coach going right into a defensive coordinatorship. I just don't like it. Now, I say that, but Barry Odom was the best defensive coordinator in the SEC last year. So that shows you that it's not foolproof. But I think we're missing out on a name that would work out really well for LSU. Ryan Walters. And I read it this morning on 247. He was on my top 10 chat sports list last year. Ryan Walters. He is the defensive coordinator at Missouri. Okay? And I really like him. I really do. Checks all the boxes. Look at how good Missouri's defenses have been with less than stellar talent. Now, you were going to be like, well, we threw the football over the yard. Well, yeah, Miles Brennan was the best quarterback in the SEC at the time, and Terrace Marshall was performing at the same level as Devonta Smith and anyone else. And Eric Gilbert was fully healthy Eric Gilbert. So there was a reason why. And Missouri's defense wasn't lights out, but they were good. And this is my favorite thing about him, is that he plays with a head coach that plays at a fast pace. So what does that mean? LSU also plays at a fast pace. So the bottom line is I think he would work. I really do. I liked watching Missouri's defense with probably the second or third less amount of talent in the SEC East. So he's experienced while also being young, while also being relatable. And he played with an offense that plays at a frantic pace. Guess what, LSU fans? You want to run the spread? Ryan Walters is used to being a defensive coordinator that has to make fast decisions. And Huntsville makes a good point here. No more square pegs, round holes. We'll see. And Jason makes a good point. Who watches Missouri's defense? Well, when I watched them, I thought they were okay. All things considered, I thought they were okay. He obviously developed some really good linebackers. Nick Bolton was probably the best linebacker in the SEC this year. So it's interesting. And Carvis makes a good point here. Do you hire an offensive coordinator first? We'll see. We'll see what happens. Jonathan says, can he recruit, though? We're LSU, baby. We recruit ourselves. Remember, at LSU, which recruits itself, which their head coach, his number one job is to recruit, he doesn't have to recruit. He doesn't have to, especially if Corey Raymond is there. So, Overtime says, Jim Leonhard, please. The exact opposite is true with Jim Leonhard. He doesn't fit LSU. Number one, LSU's not his dream job. Wisconsin's his dream job. He has said that. Number two, Wisconsin plays at a slow pace, a really slow pace. So I appreciate Mike. You're our first super chat of the night. We had one from Tony beforehand. So go on ahead, Mike, whatever you want to talk about, you let me know what you want to talk about. I heard Cam Thomas is like the real deal for LSU basketball. So, Jason says, I want the DC from Cincinnati. So guess what? I normally don't like groupthink, but I am a group thinker here. I like Marcus Freeman a lot too. Cincinnati plays at a reasonably high pace, and he was just really good. They were the number one defense when it comes to yards per play. Well, they don't play in a Power 5 conference. Have you seen Cincinnati's recruiting? It's not elite. They recruit probably, what, in the 50th, 60th range? Now, it's obviously going to go up. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. If some of you want to talk LSU basketball, we'll do that a little bit later. They do look good, though, huh? I want to see something really quickly. Let's see. You know what's interesting about Cam Thomas? And I was thinking about this earlier today. Let's see. He went to Oak Hill. So let me look at something really quick. It's so interesting that all these dudes go to the same high school. They all go to the prep schools. It's so weird. And he was the highest rated player. But you know what's fascinating? I love players that come from IMG Academy. I've shared this before. I really do. And like Oak Hill is like very much like IMG Academy. That's where everyone wants to go. Monteverdi is like the same thing. And do you remember? And we'll get back in the LSU football. Do you remember how bad the Ben Simmons era was? Do you remember? It was a disaster. It was a pure unmitigated disaster. We didn't even make the tournament. And so many people blame Johnny Jones for that when it was everyone. Ben Simmons was bigger than the LSU basketball program, which was a problem. And he's not even that good in the NBA. I would hate for my best player who plays point forward to not be able to shoot. So it is what it is. Yeah, Carmelo went to Oak Hill. But is Ben Simmons the best player that went to Monteverdi? Who else went to Oak Hill? Wasn't it Grant? No, not Grant Hill. Someone else went to Oak Hill. But anyway, I'm viewers talking basketball. We'll get back to that. Whoa, no Ben slander. What did he do for LSU? I don't mind one and done guys. I just hate the way the Ben Simmons thing happened. No, that is not the guy, Mo Funky. I could say that was the guy, but it's not. There's a reason why I won't reveal his name. The secret defensive coordinator candidate that, first off, I liked him a lot, but, some of the analytics people that I consult with love this guy for the LSU job. There's just some red tape. We'll put it that way. Oh, RJ Barrett went to Monteverdi? I think he's going to be great. I do. McGrady went to Oak Hill? Mo Funky, if you drop a $200 super chat, I am going to pimp this out. I will release a name, and it is someone. I do like Ryan Walters a lot, though. So I'll let you know that I'm not lying. Ryan Walters was not the name. There is someone else. We'll see what happens. Yeah, RJ does need to bulk up. He does work hard. He just needs to put some muscle on. The big thing, though, about RJ Barrett is he's in the Eastern Conference. So if he's halfway decent, he's going to make a lot of all-star games. Now, if he was in the West, he would have no chance. And that's what someone asked me what I thought about Ja Morant. And, he just got injured. He'll be back in a few weeks, so it wasn't serious. But, eventually he'll make all-star games. But I'm not sure if Ja Morant, even if he was amazing, would be able to make the all-star game as a Western Conference guard. Because he's not getting in over Steph. He's not getting in over Dame. He's not getting in over Harden. Not getting in over Booker. So it's hard. It's really hard to get into the all-star game as a Western Conference guard. So we'll see. So Cliff, this has been brought up a few times. Sources say the defensive coordinator job will be given to a minority. So I don't mean to avoid this, but I'm telling you, as a person of color, it would be nice to see someone at my favorite school, which is LSU, get something as huge as a play calling opportunity. So yes, it would be cool to see it, but I don't let that base my decision. I don't like Ryan Walters because he's a yellow bone like me. Shout out to all my light-skinned brothers. Marcus decides to drop the $200 super chat. Okay, so he wants to know the name. Marcus, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I'll go. I'll finish this thought because I do think it's important. I am I'm a big believer in that. Okay, so how come the LSU staff, and Robert, you donated a lot to me too. I appreciate that. How come the LSU staff does not hire from the Saints offensive staff again? No, I don't think Pete Carmichael would want that job though. Okay, but Marcus, I really appreciate that because everyone wants to know this name that I like a lot. And I'll reveal it, but there is some important red tape involved with this. There's a few other names that I do like a lot. And as many of you know, I do very deep research on all of this. I don't pretend to know the be-all, end-all. I'm right on some things. I'm wrong on a lot of things. Okay? So many people came to this channel because they saw what I said about Bo Pelini last summer. And, a lot of people say, you're telling the truth. Well, I'm not telling the truth. I'm just giving you what I believe at the time. So the minority thing is important to me because there are, as you could see in our chat, lots of people of color that like LSU football, including myself. Okay. And when I started doing sports broadcasting, the only reason, and I'm telling you, this is probably 70 to 80% why I got into sports broadcasting. It's one man. It's Stuart Scott. Okay? Stuart Scott is the reason why I did sports broadcasting. And Stuart Scott, because I watched SportsCenter my entire life, and I loved Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann. I liked all of them. Steve Levy, anyone you name, Linda Cohn, whoever. But when I saw someone be themselves, when I saw Stuart Scott be who he was, that opened up a lot of doors for me. So I do believe in, getting opportunities and opening doors. But I also don't believe just giving a job to someone based on their race, sex, religion, or anything like that. So it is a two-sided thing. Exactly. The number of qualified coaches is already vastly narrower than any. Exactly. So, that there's some guys that some people like, but 90% of you believe the number one candidate just happened to be black, and that is Marcus Freeman. So I don't look at it just like that, but I do also understand the importance of that because, like I said, I used to think that being on the SportsCenter desk was just for Dan Patrick's and Keith Olbermann's. Because, when you're young and your mind's forming, you things become fact. Do you take Bitcoin for Super Chat? I would love Bitcoin. And exactly, Stuart Scott is the biggest influence, period, on my life in general. So it is what it is. We all be purple and gold. You're right, baby. Ain't that right, Eric? Yeah, and I would like to see Corey Raymond. It would be a good opportunity. But if I'm being honest with you, and I'm not someone that would ever be dishonest with you, I would prefer someone else other than Corey Raymond. I wouldn't dislike it. It's just we've never seen him call plays before. And I think a fresh set of eyes would help out this program a lot, especially on defense. So be it a Glenn Schumann, a Ryan Walters, Brad White, whoever it may be, let's see it. Cooler than the other side of the pillow. So Marcus wants to know the name. Okay, so I really like this guy because he runs a very similar defense to that of Dave Aranda. Well, obviously, Dave Aranda's not here anymore, and Ed Orgeron doesn't want to run a defense to that of Dave Aranda. But I spoke to a few people that I trust, and, some of these people are NFL scouts. So for those that don't know, when you work in the press, and I used to cover LSU games, and you'd actually go to the games, and what was funny was I wasn't one of the major press members. So I would always be seated on the very back row because I just worked for the student radio station, and I wasn't as important as the Advocate writers, the ESPN writers, and whatnot. But that was actually a benefit because I would always be seated next to NFL scouts that I'm still friends with to this day, people that I trust with information. And these dudes know so much about football. It is ridiculous because obviously they've dedicated their life to the craft. So whenever you read people saying sources, NFL scouts, and, I believe a good bit of it. Now, a lot of people make it up. It is what it is. So it's one of those things. I'll tell you this. One thing one scout said to me was that in order to run a 4-3 defense and it work, you have got to hope and pray that your safeties and your defensive ends tackle the ball carrier each and every time. And I was like, wait, what do you mean by that? Well, he said that it makes it so much easier in a 4-3 to know where the safeties and the defense are going to be over the course of a play, which makes a lot of sense if you actually go into the minutia of college football. So I took that to heart. I do not mind LSU going back to a 3-4. I don't think it is as drastic of a change as people make it out to be. So, with that said, I think one person that would fit LSU very well is a former head coach who is currently the defensive coordinator at Memphis, and his name is Mike McIntyre. He was a head coach at Colorado. For a while, he was a defensive coordinator under a bad head coach under Matt Luke at Ole Miss. And on top of that, he went to Memphis this year and had a decent year. Each and every stop, he was playing with a high-powered offense. Each and every stop, his defenses were relatively efficient. His defenses are very similar to that of Dave Aranda. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I like Dave Aranda's defense. I really do. It's tough to read what's going to happen pre-snap. So the reason why I like Mike McIntyre a lot is because of all of those things. I don't mind a defensive coordinator that has had head coaching experience. I just don't like it when that head coach goes from a head coach to being a DC. And McIntyre's made 2 different stops, both of which are in the South, one of which was at Ole Miss in the SEC West. So he got let go by Lane Kiffin, and you saw what happened to the Ole Miss defense. It was the worst in the SEC. Then he goes to Memphis, and they had an overall decent defense this year. I like watching Memphis's defense. One thing I like to do is when I'm watching a game, I like to see if I could figure out what a defense is doing pre-snap. In Memphis's defense, it's kind of hard to see what's happening pre-snap. So that's something else I like. Also, coaches like to be shunned. And Mike McIntyre, even though he was decent at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin decided to get rid of him. So that lets me know that he's probably itching to get back at the Power 5 level. He's also itching to get back into the SEC West. So when you factor in pace of play and all those different things, I like him. I really do. And I think the financials would work itself out for LSU. And he's not really a hot, sought-after name. So this is a red tape. Okay, Marcus, and I appreciate your donation. And Marcus brings up my next point. I'm telling you. I don't just say that. I'm not just making this up. But B.J. Ojulari would be a beast in the Caleb Vaughn Chason role. He's got ball skills, played multiple positions in high school, and he's just an athlete. We have the personnel to run a 3-4. We simply do, okay? B.J. Ojulari could play with his hand not in the dirt. Guess what? We've always had dudes that could play in a 3-4. The scary thing about Barkevius Mingo is that he would have been a 9 or 10 sack guy in the SEC if he was in a 3-4 defense, if he was taught how to play the outside linebacker role. That's why he is, to me, not been good in the NFL, because what he was drafted to do was something he never did in his entire life. So this is why I like him. That's all the reasons why I like him. The reason why it wouldn't work itself out, and this is part of the reason why I didn't want to share his name in the defensive coordinator video, part of it is because of research I've done. He's had some Title IX issues. There was a Title IX issue involving an abuse case at Colorado, which he grossly mishandled. So that obviously doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's a very sensitive issue. If LSU is going through what they're going through now, that would obviously be brought up. The university doesn't want bad public relations. So that would be the major holdup. So yeah, that's part of the reason why I didn't want to talk about it on the video, because that is part of the hiring process. You know, the same thing is true if you're going to go out and hire Hugh Freeze, or if you hire someone else that has baggage. So it is what it is. Carver sets a good point about Andre Anthony. He's a 4-3 defensive end. It's true. Exactly. So, Huntsville sees things a little bit more like me. Cliff and Carvis and Kane, who sees this differently. You guys want a 4-man front, which is perfectly fine. If you feel that the personnel can only run a 4-man, it is what it is. But I would like a return back to the Dave Aranda defense. It's just me. But Coach Orgeron knows way more about football than I do. Robert, I appreciate your donation. I didn't do this because Marcus's donation was so large and it was such a detailed answer to a question. But I'm actually glad he did that, because I didn't want you guys to be thinking that I was just hiding this. But that is why I didn't share Mike McIntyre's name in the video, because, well, that stuff gets a little dicey involving what happened at Colorado. So, it is what it is. That's a good point, Marcus. You don't have a Tyler Shelvin type of player. Okay. Who's to say we can't recruit one? Who's to say Mason Smith can't play that role? I know that's, a space-eating nose tackle isn't necessarily his game. I think you know when to call. That's a good point, Kane. And that's something else that needs to happen. So let me go back to Robert, because I did answer Marcus's question, which has been the biggest thing I've been emailed and asked about. Robert, whatever you want to talk about, throw it our way. Thank you for your donation to the channel. Is Ulysses in here? Let's say hi to Keegan, Carvis. Well, you've been in here. King Mo, what's up, dude? JJ from Shreveport. What it do? Yeah. Official Friday. What it do? But who's to say, can't Jacobian Guillory play that nose role? I mean, he's strong enough. He's big enough. Charlie, you're right. LSU just needs a DC that could stop a crossing route. Well, you know, it's not just that. This is a huge concern for me, okay? And I know Ed Orgeron's not supposed to be involved in the play calling. North Miami, what it do? But then you're benching Gay for Guillory. That's true. You know, the Ali Gay is a 4-3 defensive end. He's not a 3-4 guy. So, you know, it does change things up quite a bit. I agree. Actually, I do agree with you, Carvis. I do. You're oftentimes right about a lot of the stuff that I say. So we got 109 people in here. I appreciate that. Hit the thumbs up button. A lot of love for Cam Thomas in here tonight. I wish I could give him some of the super chat money for being the 5-star player we thought Ben Simmons would be for us. But I like that. I like that, Cam. I do. And I'm quietly building an LSU basketball rookie auto basketball collection. Just quietly. And here's the problem. We're about to hit 3,000 subs. And like I said, I want to give out an LSU rookie card every time. And I don't know which one to give out. I don't know. I'm still deciding. Let's see. That's true, Carvis. It's a better front four. One thing I like about the 3-man front is that it's a little bit harder for the quarterback to scramble versus a 3-man front. And we saw against Ole Miss, an immobile quarterback and Matt Corral ran for 150 yards against us. Yeah, I mean, Bug Strong might be that dude. You know, he is a typical box backer. And, you know, we were very critical. Okay, one player I'm going to defend, and if you guys don't mind, I want to defend it because this isn't a sexy topic. It's not about offensive or defensive coordinator. It's not about recruiting. But, you know, Terrell, that's not true. Out of the names that have been said a lot, Jim Leonard is the least likely candidate, okay? Once again, it would be an awful fit. I just really believe it would be an awful fit. He's in his mid-30s. He's super popular. I'm not so sure if Paul Chryst is going to keep that job. Barry Alvarez would probably prefer Jim Leonard to be the head coach there because Barry likes to feed his own children. And Jim Leonard is a Badger through and through. Jim Leonard already makes $1 million as a defensive coordinator. So does he want to, a guy that's made millions of dollars in the NFL, does he want to uproot his family to go to the SEC, which we don't even know if he really wants to be there? I just don't think that would work. Kane said, Kane's the funniest commenter in my varsity experience. So, you know, it's true. That's the same for me too. So for me, when I was in high school, they would bring me in to be the nose guard in a 3-4 defense. Dead serious. Yeah, I could call my defensive line coach up right now, and he'd tell you the same thing. Debbie wants to know where is Booger. We'll get Booger in here in a second. We got to let the super chat money flow. Booger, because like I said, Booger, the money honestly all goes to Booger because she's old and we got to, you know, get that kidney medicine in. And I don't just say it to pimp it out, but it's true because my girlfriend always asks me, how much Booger medicine did we get from the live chat? And Eric doesn't say anything. He'll chat some and Eric just chills on the Air Force Base. And when I bring up Bug, Eric is like, Bug, we need Bug. Right now, we'll get Bug on here in a second. Barry A will never drop Chryst. I disagree with that. Because what Barry Alvarez wants is he wants a Badger to coach the program. Paul Chryst wasn't good this year. It was a weird year, but he wasn't good. So if Barry can switch out an older Badger for a younger Badger, well, he's going to do it. And Kirby's like, Booger, I love Booger. Booger McFarland. I like Booger. What he said last night was absolutely ridiculous. I really hated what he said last night. I've thought about it a lot today. It was a gross generalization that had a lot of truth, but it wasn't for a Monday Night Football audience. That was not the place to do it. And here's the thing. I'm a comic. I could take anything, all right? What he said was stupid, okay? What he said was stupid because as dumb as Dwayne Haskins has been, Johnny Manziel was just as stupid, okay? And for every Jamarcus Russell, there's a Johnny Manziel. For every Dwayne Haskins, there's a Ryan Leaf, okay? Like Marcus said earlier, doesn't matter what your race is. If you're an idiot, you're an idiot. If you blow your talent, you blow your talent. David Cross is a beast. I know. It's stupid. It's stupid. The bottom line is what Marcus Spears said about Dwayne Haskins was 10 times more appropriate and correct and accurate. And it also helped that Marcus Spears actually spoke to Dwayne Haskins and consulted Dwayne Haskins. And it further proves my point. And I'm biased because I've done an interview with Marcus Spears before. It was about an hour long. We talked about societal issues. You could probably find it on the internet. I think it's on one of my old SoundCloud accounts. And Marcus Spears is so much better as an analyst in every way than Booger McFarland. Every single way. And what he said about Dwayne Haskins was far more accurate, okay? It's a business, okay? If I were to come on this live stream right now and talk about, Christopher Nolan movies, something I'm very passionate about, guess what? None of you would watch. You're here for me to talk about LSU football, right? So the NFL's the same way. It's a business. It's an entertainment business, okay? Your time is important to you, so I'm not going to waste your time. Dwayne Haskins wasted everyone's time, okay? Had nothing to do with this race, had nothing to do with anything else other than the dude had never faced real adversity in his life until he reached the NFL, okay? So that's the bottom line. It's the bottom line. So, this is a Marcus Spears stan account. More often than not, I think his analysis is really good. I really do believe that. He makes me think. And what he said about Dwayne Haskins was actually very accurate. And like I said, he actually did some reporting. He spoke to the dude. And he still came out and said he was an idiot, which he was. Okay? And part of the reason, and you want to know my honest opinion about Chris goes out of nowhere. Sorry, I'm late. I was delivering a cow. My honest opinion about Dwayne Haskins. And if you look, this kind of translates. When you get to the NFL, it's so important to have already faced a real hardship. Now, I don't know Dwayne Haskins personally, but what I mean by a hardship is actually a football hardship. So for Joe Burrow, it was getting beat out by Dwayne Haskins and having to switch schools. Okay? That's what kind of concerns me about Trevor Lawrence. Okay? He hasn't had a real hardship. He hasn't had to beat someone else for the job. He beat out Kelly Bryant, which turned out to be right. I like a quarterback that has a chip on their shoulder of some sort. Think of all the great quarterbacks. Think of all the great quarterbacks. They all have been told no as a football player. I know, Kane, and they would Booger with crappy analysis. They would allow him to block the view of fans that paid $50 for parking, $250 for a ticket to sit in the cold and watch a crappy Monday Night Football matchup. Exactly, Marcus. Well, Tony, I've shared my thoughts on the Dwayne Haskins Joe Burrow thing. Dwayne Haskins was a better quarterback than Joe Burrow at the time. He just was, okay? But Joe fueled his fire. And, it's important to be told no. If you guys knew how many different LSU projects I've done, well, Cliff knows. He's a family member of mine. This is one that actually hit, okay? I've done other stuff. I've written for Bleacher Report, did really well. Sometimes it's out of your control, but it's important to have professional hardship. Here's a good example of this, okay? This kid had a lot of talent, but never really faced hardship, and he sucked in college. Christian Hackenberg. Christian Hackenberg had a near Jamarcus Russell level arm. I mean, the dude had a cannon. But when he got to Penn State, he got the job. There wasn't really any hardship. And if you look, there's not many true freshmen. Because, with Dwayne Haskins, he got to Ohio State. He knew he wasn't going to beat out J.T. Barrett. But then when all that left, he just kind of took over. It wasn't really any kind of you're not good enough kind of thing. That's true. Burrow did get hurt. What's up, Chris Ghost? Let's see. So, Chris Ghost brings up Jack Besh. I mean, every time I open Twitter, it's Jack Besh making a stupid play. That kid, I mean, it's funny because he was going to go to Vanderbilt, okay? That's what just kind of blows me away. This kid was going to go to Jack Besh was going to be wasted at Vanderbilt. And so, Eric, this was interesting. I spoke to someone I really respect when it comes to talent evaluation yesterday. And a lot of you want Jack Besh to play tight end, okay? I don't like that. I don't. Let him come play wide receiver. Who's to say, okay, Booger's ready for her appearance. I woke her up. She heard about a $200 super chat from Marcus. Eric is in there. There we go. Everyone say hi to Bug. Thank you for your super chats. We got a big day coming up, January 6th. Her appointment. There's her baby girl. Everyone say hi to my beautiful girlfriend.
It kills me that everybody loves Booger so
I'm
much.
telling you, Boog is the star of the show. We're having tuna steaks tonight. I'm telling y'all, tuna steaks will change your life. My girlfriend changed my life. We put some garlic Parmesan seasoning on there.
Now I can go to sleep. Aww.
We need a number. Eric wants Boog to have a number 7 jersey.
Okay, we'll get it for him.
I'll get it for him. There you go. Everyone's.
Hold on, I'll hold her.
Booger's going night-night. Night-night, Boog. She's ready to go to sleep. So my girlfriend's diehard Arkansas fan.
I am not. This is a sleep shirt.
Boog wears number 7 and 18. Interesting.
Look at how tired she is, y'all.
Boog for DC.
I woke her up.
She was knocked out. She was like, "Wait, am I going on the live stream tonight?"
What are people saying about Booger?
Tampa, what's up, dude? Beck will be another Devonta Lee. That's like the only.
Eric, I'm not an Arkansas fan.
That Booger McFarland for DC. Kane always wants to troll the comments. I love it. Boog does look tired. Okay, she's ready for 9-9.
I just woke her up.
She's ready for 9-9.
She gets wound up when we eat dinner, though.
Yeah, and then she'll eat, and then I don't know about y'all's dogs. Booger likes to make a mess when she eats. She kicks her food around and just throws it everywhere.
I can't help it. Look at that baby.
Look at that Bella.
It's a Bella.
Drop it like it's hot, Boog.
Her can't.
She's. I'm telling you, Boog has seen a life. Kirby, welcome. Devonta Lee is hopefully the next Patrick Queen if they put him back at linebacker, right? So everyone likes to throw down the super chats. All right, everyone say night-night to Booger. Everyone say night-night.
She looks so cute.
She does look cute. Look at that big.
Oh, she just took a deep breath.
Devonta just needs to play. They need to let him play. Night, babe.
I gotta cook the steak, right?
Oh, yeah, we're having tuna steaks tonight. So if you guys keep super chatting and Venmoing and Cash Apping, my girlfriend always says it's fine if I stay because it's, it's all for a bug. So this is why, Eric. All right. If Jack Bech, if his best position is tight end, let him play tight end. But if he has broken records at wide receiver, this was a good comparison. That's someone I trust a lot when it comes to player evaluation. We think of wide receivers as just really, really fast guys. But I like receivers that have a lot of size. Okay, so if you look at LSU last year, so Justin Jefferson isn't necessarily a speed demon, but he's obviously really fast. He ran 4.4 at the combine. But Terrace Marshall's not that fast. Jamar Chase, his game was not speed. It was physicality. And if you look historically, how many LSU wide receivers at our university have been the speed demon type? Well, early Doucette was, but Odell was, but really most of our wide receivers are physical dudes. Michael Clayton, Dwayne Bowe, Jarvis Landry, Brandon LaFell. They didn't beat you with speed. They beat you with size. They beat you with muscle. So, and Chark was a speed demon. But, Jack Bech, he could play tight end, especially in this offense. But, I just don't want to have the idea that, okay, he's got to play tight end. Because that, that's what most of the comments that I get. He would be a perfect anywhere. Get him on the field any way you possibly can. But when I watch him play, I'm like, good. Is this? You want to know who Jack Bech reminds me a lot of? A.J. Brown. Jack Bech reminds me a lot of A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown's not a fast dude. He's just not a fast dude. I don't mind if my receiver runs 4.5, 4.6. I just don't. Okay? How many NFL wide receivers in the league just run past people? How many? Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley. Even though Calvin Ridley, to me, is more of a route runner. Most of the guys in the NFL that are great wide receivers are just good at actually playing wide receiver. So, to me, if you're comparing the four wide receivers, when it comes to production, Jack Bech is on a different level than the other guys in the class. Now, the counter argument to that is Jack Bech had two Division I quarterbacks throwing the football to him. And St. Thomas More is an elite button-down program. My high school actually played St. Thomas More before, and I was doing the radio broadcast, and I was just so amazed at, even then, how buttoned up they were as a program. So that's the thing. Tyler Lockett ran a 4.6. So, I just don't know, because when Jack Bech played at St. Thomas More, he didn't play tight end. So, like for instance, let's say Eric Gilbert. Let's say if Eric Gilbert decides to come back. Well, blocking might not be his thing. It might be best to just let him play receiver. Okay. So, I just find that very fascinating. And that's the thing, Big Mac. I was watching Jack Bech's highlights, and maybe a bigger guy would complement Kayshon Boutte a little bit more, because Kayshon's going to be the open the lid off the defense guy, right? The deep ball receiver. Well, you guys know that. So, Carvis says it all the time. Complementary football. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm very interested to see how the wide receiver thing, because in the title of the video, obviously, it's RACEY McMATH goes to the NFL draft. The receiver room was crowded, and RACEY McMATH had a Senior Bowl invite. Yes, you would like to have returning starters back, and RACEY McMATH didn't really get to have a senior season. But good for him. Let him go get paid. Look at how many guys LSU has in the NFL that were legit just special teams guys. Russell Shepard just retired, and he made $1 million a year on special teams. Exactly, Bankroll. Exactly. Every time I watch Jack Bech play, I'm just blown away. I'm just legit blown away, because this is what once again, this is what I always ask you to do when watching a tape, a film, or whatever. Who's the guy matched up against, and how many plays from your eyes do you see that high school athlete make that would translate to the next level, and or how many plays do you see that athlete make that just jumps out at you? That is truly extraordinary. And Jack Bech just makes a lot of those types of plays. And I know he played with Walker Howard, who's going to be one of the best quarterbacks ever recruited at LSU. That helps out a lot. And I know he was playing with a quarterback who's at Louisiana Tech right now. That helps a lot. And you are going up against high school corners that aren't as good or whatever. But to have that type of production is ridiculous. So we'll see. Why was he so low rated as a prospect? Well, it's because he doesn't run 4.5. And there's so many receivers out there that run 4.5, 4.4. So that's part of it. That's all there is to it. But, he's still a 4-star receiver. And you also got to factor this in. This is a loaded wide receiver group. And you got to understand trends as well, Jonathan. So, for instance, Chris Hilton is a top 100 prospect, but he's like the 6th or 7th receiver. This 2021 class was loaded on offensive linemen and receivers in the top 100. Jack Bech and Trey Quinn. I think they're different players. I do. Trey Quinn, isn't the physical specimen that Jack Bech is. Now, he's probably faster, but I mean, Jack Bech is a huge human being. He's huge. Trey Quinn was a monster in high school. He was a force. So, I'm glad you brought this up, Julie. So, before we started talking about Jack Bech, I wanted to defend Damon Clark. So, we were talking about 4-3 versus 3-4. Okay, so what I decided to do is yesterday, I was getting ready to produce a video regarding the offensive lineman that LSU is about to get. Kiko, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, the 3-star. But I decided to do something else. Sometimes I feel I need to rewatch something. So I went back, and so many people keep saying this, that Damon Clark was terrible. First thing I want to defend him for is that he never gave up. Okay, he never ever gave up. He wore the number 18 uniform. He got benched, never complained, went about his business. A source inside the building said he never threw a fit. But, I was like, hold on. Let me really go back and watch the tape. And, I'm going to defend him. Remember, a huge benefit of the 3-4 defense is that the nose tackle in the middle keeps your linebackers free. Okay? So, I don't have a whiteboard here, but the one person who got the raw end of the deal going from a 4-3 to a 3-4 are your linebackers. Okay? So, when Devin White was playing, he was playing in a 3-4, and he had guys like Rashard Lawrence and Fiocco and Locouture playing in front of him that would eat up blocks. Okay? The point of the 4-3 defense is for your defensive line to go attack and get in the backfield and make a lot of plays. Well, That's what I don't like about the 4-3, because the way the 4-3 works is it makes it easier for an offensive lineman to get to the second level where the linebackers are. Okay? And that's where Damon Clark got hurt. All right? Because there was too many opportunities where James just sent me a Cash App. You look too small to be a defensive lineman. The problem was, James, was I was slow, so I could only play the defensive line. I'm weird. I was a defensive tackle in football, and I was also a central midfielder in soccer at a high school and traveling soccer level. So a position that requires you to be very fast in one sport, and then another one where you don't have to be as fast. So it's weird. My athletic career is like as weird as I am. But it's, let's see. I'm confusing scheme with personnel. Okay. So let me finish. Let me finish. Because I was just kind of blown away. James, thank you for the Cash App. I appreciate that. But I don't think a lot of people care about my athletic career. Anyway, I do need to do this break. 127 people, only 50 of you thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up button. I really appreciate that. So, exactly. And I was talking about the Williams duo. They ran the 4-3. So, let me finish this really quickly. I just went back and rewatched some of the film studies I did and some of the LSU games. And Damon Clark had to face a lot of good offensive linemen that would get to him clean to the second level. And that's a very difficult thing to do when, you can't practice at full speed. You don't really get to see that at full speed. And then you go from a 3-4 where that didn't happen. So this is what you do, okay? Go watch LSU's 2019 defensive tape, or just watch the games, okay? And count how many times an offensive lineman is able to get to the second level of the linebackers very easily. And then go back and watch the 4-3 defense this year, and it is the complete opposite. So a lot of Damon Clark's struggles had to do with him. I'm not absolving him of that. I'm just letting you know that it was an extremely difficult thing because of that. And to Marcus's point, LSU just needs to do a better job of that aspect of it. I just think personally that in a 3-4, it's tougher to get to the second level. But, to each their own. A lot of this comes down to the Jimmies and Joes. And with Jaquelin Roy with an extra year, and Mason Smith hopefully being the guy we expect him to be, maybe it changes things. And Carvis also makes another good point. I don't think Clark played with a lot of confidence. The athleticism's there. They didn't just give him the number 18 jersey for no reason. And, at the time, it seemed like a pretty safe choice for a number 18 uniform. I never agreed with Chris Curry getting it, not because of character, but because of actual play on the field. We've discussed this before. That jersey number is not about play on the field, okay? It's about who you are. Well, to the other side of that, I think Damon Clark was a pretty safe bet. How many LSU linebackers have been hyped up before the season and just turned out to be duds? There's really not many, okay? For instance, I remember when, the LSU coaching staff was hyping up Kevin Minter. Y'all remember Kevin Minter? I was like, hold on just a second now. Come on. It's Kevin Minter. It's a tough position. Didn't play so much on the 2011 team, and then Kevin Minter had 20 tackles in one game versus Florida. So, and he's still in the NFL, surprisingly. Kevin Minter was a beast. So think about how many linebackers at LSU have just been hyped up and turned out to not be good. It legit happens at every other position, but more often than not, we've seen consistent linebacker play. So, but Kevin Minter was a really good football. Now, that's not me bad-mouthing him. I was just like, because, the coaches were talking him up. It was like, oh, really? Okay, Kevin Minter, I'm excited. Max, I appreciate you. What would you like to talk about, Max? Kevin Minter, I think, still is in Tampa Bay, playing with Booga, playing with Devin. Lots of LSU flavor on that. That's kind of a weird school. That's kind of a weird team because, in the NFL, we talk about how many players get to the NFL that are from small colleges. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are kind of the opposite of that. They have a lot of big program players on there. Their two best wide receivers, or the three best wide receivers, are Penn State, Texas A&M, and Florida State. Their running backs are USC and LSU. Their quarterback is Michigan. Then their defense, nose tackles Nebraska. It's not a big school, but it's a big program. Linebacker, Devin White, LSU. Maybe it's just me. The most LSU team in the NFL right now, wouldn't it be Cleveland? Was that Odell, Jarvis, Greedy, Jacob Phillips, Delpit? Or it could be, Tampa, or it could be Seattle. What about Seattle? It's Sullivan, Damian Lewis, Jamal. Jacksonville. Okay. Let's see. Jacksonville is Chason, Chark. Used to be Fournette. They always pick OSU. But here's the thing, Carvis. Most of those OSU players can play. Von Bell was decent. Malcolm Jenkins is obviously really good. And then, of course, Marcus and Can't Guard Mike speak for themselves. So I try not to talk about what I talk about on the radio. So occasionally I do ESPN radio in South Carolina. And to me, guys, the biggest sham of mockery I've ever seen in college football is Ohio State getting into this playoff. Okay? Oh, yeah, Seattle has Posick. That's true. Ohio State getting into the playoff is the worst thing I've ever seen. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. How can you put a team in there that only played 6 games? How? Okay? If this was last year's Ohio State's team and they killed everyone on their schedule, I'd probably have a little less of a problem. But every time I watch Ohio State, you guys saw this on the live stream. I put a lot of money on Rutgers to cover versus Ohio State because I didn't think that they were that good. But for real, 6 games. And you know what? A lot of people on the radio show sent me messages. They're like, well, you wouldn't say that if it was LSU. You would say that. Yeah, I would. If we only played 6 games, you guys know I tell it like it is. I would be like, hey, I'm personally happy about it, but it's kind of messed up. Okay. And I understand. All right. I understand. Well, it wasn't their fault that they only played 6 games. That's not our problem. That's not our problem. That's your commissioner and leadership's problem. Kyle's right. It would be Atlanta, wouldn't it? That's Debo, Russell Gage, and who else? Or is that it? Kansas City. That's Tyron. Obviously, Daryl, Clyde. Okay. Eddie Kennison from old schoolers. I don't know. I'm sure we could Google this really quickly. I'm just trying to go off the cusp. It's like weird. The NFC South has a lot of LSU Tigers except the Saints. Because we talked about Tampa, we talked about Atlanta, and then the Panthers, obviously Joe Brady, but then you have Dante Jackson and who else? Brandon LaFell, no longer there. I'm just joking. If Ohio State is Cliff is so in on this Gino Torretta take. And I like it. I like you guys being passionate about your takes. One thing I like about Marcus, and it's not just because he donates a lot to the channel, which obviously helps it out, but Marcus always challenges me, and I like that. Duke Riley. So Philly is Duke Riley, Jalen Mills. It's tough to keep up with the offensive lineman. It is. Seattle and Cleveland with 5 each. So we did the Cleveland 5. So Seattle is Posick, Lewis, Sullivan, Adams, and who's the fifth? Who's the fifth? Come on. Tell me who the fifth. Okay. So Kane, I didn't get that far with that because I didn't, I love you, Kane. I didn't get as much feedback on that because it is so weird. So you saw what happened with the Auburn coaching search, where the president released a statement, belittling the coaches that said that they were offered the job. And part of that is to suppress not only the media, but just everyone, saying that, there's not as many people involved with coaching searches, when in fact there are a lot of moving parts. Danny's with the Seahawks? Danny who? Oh, Danny Ettling's with the Seahawks? Stop it. Danny Etling is not with the Seahawks. No, he's not. I refuse to believe that. So, Kane, the problem with the question is that it's too good of a question because the answer is really layered. So, personally, when I was at LSU, I knew some people that actually, pulled some strings, that sit in the fancy boxes at games and have some real pull. Actually, one of them hired me to do some work with the Sun. So I'll talk about that some other time. But that was the best job I've ever had. But it's interesting because there's probably less amount of people than we probably think that has influence. But at the same time, there are quite a few people that will get their 2 cents in. Tampa has I didn't know Divinity was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I didn't know that. So anyway, Marcus's super chat is still up there. We've talked a lot about coordinator searches. Is there anything that you guys want to talk about? Because we're having tuna steaks tonight. I'm fired up. I'm telling you, tuna steaks have changed my life. It's probably the best thing that's happened to me in 2020 outside of this channel and you guys. So what would you guys like to, you want to talk NFL? Do you want to talk recruiting? Do you want to talk 2022 recruiting? I don't know a whole lot about that at the moment. I don't think a lot of people really do. Who starts at QB week 1? Ooh, that's a loaded one. I'll do the easier one. I am the answer. Corners. So you want to talk about the corners next year, which honestly is a really good talking point. First thing, obviously, what kind of defense you're going to run. It's obviously the most important thing. But it doesn't matter what kind of defense you run. You're going to have 2 outside corners. So conventional thinking would tell you it's Elias Ricks and Derek Stingley, which could be the best pair of corners ever at LSU, which is, really saying something. I would always believe Patrick Peterson and Morris Claiborne were the best pair of corners at LSU in 2010. But that's not here nor there. But, Sting and Ricks would be the best pair of corners in college football. So that would be who would start right there. And then at the nickel, you're probably going to start Jay Ward there. And then slowly work in Sage Ryan. You want to get Sage Ryan on the field in some capacity because he's just that talented of a guy. Now, obviously, there are some not red flags, but there are some concerns. Obviously, Sage Ryan was battling through a lot of injuries this year. And going from LCA and that level of football at Louisiana High School, and there are some good programs at that level, such as Newman. But still, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there. So the corners right now, I would say would be Elias Ricks, Derek Stingley, and Jay Ward. Something that I think would be very interesting, though, is because Jay Ward had some really good moments. He really did. So what do we do with Dwight McGlothern? What do we do with Demarius McGee? Who's to say Demarius McGee doesn't have another outstanding true freshman year? I don't know a whole lot about Demarius McGee, to be honest. I knew a little bit more about Nathaniel Wiggins. I liked him a little bit. To be fair to McGee, I haven't watched much of him. I did like Wiggins' tape a lot. He's a really fluid athlete, and I think Clemson's getting a good player. So we'll see. We'll see. But, some of you like Dwight McGlothern a lot. Like Marcus points out, very long prospect. Very well put together as a corner. Great size for a corner. So, that's 4 returning corners that LSU has coming back next year. Maybe there's more incentive to start Jay Ward because he is more experienced. So we'll see what happens there. He's not that much more experienced. But of the 2, Jay Ward was better. But in fairness to Dwight McGlothern, there was no excuse to not throw him out there against Mississippi State when everything wasn't working. You should have played him. Does Sam Ehlinger come back for his 7th year? I don't know. It's what's the score? Because I was going to bet a pretty good bit on this Oklahoma State Miami game, and it's 37-34. Miami did come back, and I was gonna parlay the over and Oklahoma State because Miami's defense versus ranked opponents weren't good this year, and their defensive coordinator is a name to look out for. He hasn't been that good this year. Miami's not been good defensively against the better teams that they played. And Miami's defensive coordinator, whose name slips my mind right now, it's something Baker or something like that, had coached at Louisiana Tech, so he's familiar with Louisiana. We all miss the old Miami. So that's a good question, Lemon. Joe Moorhead at LSU. So let me throw this out here. How many of you? Let's go to Eric's question first, or Kirby's question first. Do you think Eric Gilbert will return? That's a question that you shouldn't worry about because it's ultimately going to come down, obviously, to him. And I know it's like stating the obvious. I would lean towards no right now, but fingers crossed. A lot of you know how much I loved Eric Gilbert coming out, and you know how much I've hyped him up. I actually liked Elias Ricks better than Eric Gilbert coming out. They both were phenomenal as true freshmen. Obviously, Elias Ricks was better, but Eric Gilbert was really good too. I would lean towards no, but I'm hopeful. I am hopeful. Alex, that's okay, man. Still plenty of time to get in your questions. Like I said, I said I'd wrap it up at about an hour and a half or so, and we were about an hour 15. But, the super chats and the Venmos are coming in. The more super chats and Venmos that come in, the more I could justify to my girlfriend and Boog that we can keep this thing going all night. So keep them coming. Keep them coming. But I Am the Answer brings up a good point. Is Eric Gilbert too much of a distraction? Terrell says Gilbert has the same problem Arden Key had, which is what? Arden Key's situation was way different. Man, I feel Eric is 50-50. How do you not feel like trash after leaving your team and they go on to beat the number 6 team in the nation? Exactly, JJ. And I think that actually works against LSU in this because, a lot of people say, well, Eric Gilbert can see that LSU can win the big game and maybe he would have rather played with Max Johnson. The exact opposite might be true there. Eric Gilbert would walk back into a situation where the team played their best in the game that you left. So It further proves what I've always said. One player doesn't make a program. So whenever you freak out about losing a recruit, trust me, there is no recruit I've ever loved more than JoJo Earl coming out of high school. He went to Alabama. It saddened me for a little bit. We move on. Black goatee. Y'all know that the gif of the guy with the cool fade? Black goatee with one of these. I like that. If Eric Gilbert is here, Cole Taylor doesn't lose a shoe. Yes, Kane, you always leave a slot open for a 6'4" tight end who runs a 4.5. You always leave a slot open for that. Unless, of course, he's a major headache. And in this case, there's been one instance where he's caused a headache, which obviously is what we're dealing with now. But keep in mind, he's 18 years old. His situation is not criminal in nature. There's no, it's different to go all out for a kid who's a real problem. But you're getting a guy that played a lot as a true freshman. Maybe his body was hurting. Maybe we don't know. Cliff said the Pat Surtain thing really does hurt. Even in retrospect, you just felt so, because there was so much hype, his dad and all of that. And, that was like the first year I really got into recruiting. And Sam Spiegelman's my favorite recruiting writer, and he's still a friend of mine to this day. And he was just telling me week after week, LSU's got Patrick Surtain locked up. It really was a last-second change of the mind or whatever. So, it is what it is. God, I would have hit that bet. I would have hit the Oklahoma State parlay with the over. Let's see here. Checking all your cash apps. Once again, James, I appreciate that. Tony says I was in boot camp at 18. That's crazy. Boot camp at 18. Let's see this. Yeah. You coming out to Vegas in January? What is in Vegas? What's Vegas in January? I don't know. I might be out of this. I like the way you say that, James. If we're going to Vegas, I'm going to pick up James in Little Rock. And James is driving on his gas. Okay. I think my girlfriend and I are going to okay, Black Goatee with the random question. I don't mind these questions after an hour. What is your favorite beer? Mine is Corona. Okay. Hopefully my answer to this leads to a sponsorship deal. So if that's the case, Bud Light is my absolute favorite beer. It's amazing though, like how much more. Okay. I will Cliff, you're my uncle, and I didn't even know you were in boot camp. I didn't know that. I really didn't. Taking Vioxx. What is Vioxx? Corona. So Black Goatee, are you a lime? Are you a Corona extra guy? So I say Bud. So you know what's weird? I'm shocked, and one thing that really shocks me, that Bud Light's sales are doubled every other beer sales. Okay? Bud Light crushes every other beer when it comes to sales. So Is Bud Light that much better of a beer for it to be doubled in sales? Is it just their marketing? It did more harm than my knee did. Let's see. Ooh, Eric. All right, here's a problem with Shock Top and Blue Moon is that both of those beers only taste great out of a tap with double orange. Parish Canebrake, Anita Purple. Hey, oh yeah, you do need a beta for crabs and crawfish. Oh, so that's what it is, Marcus. I forgot that you're in. I believe you're in like a sales type of thing, so you understand economics really well. I don't know a whole lot about beer sales. One of my best friends is the Budweiser distributor here. I'll say best friend. He was my best friend in middle school. Ironically, he dates the person that designed my logo. But anyway, it's crazy though because I never see anyone drinking Bud Heavy. Okay, Peter Parrish ended up in Memphis. So Marcus, you understand the business. When Bud Guy comes in for order, he picks up anything expired, period. So what do they do with that expired beer? And I didn't even know beer could expire. Or what is the expiration date on beer? Is it like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? I'm a Guinness guy. Hey, JJ, you look Irish. Let's see. Michelob. So my favorite beer actually is Michelob. And it's actually Michelob Ultra Lime Prickly Pear. That is my favorite beer. It is unrivaled. PBR is actually a really solid beer, especially for the price. Jacoby Stevens is not coming back, and it's probably better for him and LSU. More often than not, when a player decides to go, it's better for the school and the player for him to go, or it's worse for the player and the school at the same time. It's never an in-between because I'm really serious about this. I really do believe those two things coincide. I think it's better for Liam Shanahan to come back, and it's better for the team that he comes back because LSU doesn't have another center, and he doesn't have much of a draft stock. RACEY McMath is different. He doesn't know how many snaps he's going to get next year. That's a talented wide receivers room. And he already has a Senior Bowl invite. He's got to go. He would be not smart to come back. All right? Take Anthony Freak Johnson is the perfect example of this. LSU really needed him to come back. He really needed to come back. Their defensive tackle depth hurt the next year. And he needed to come back because he wasn't that good. Now, he was all SEC, but that had more to do with his name than his actual production on the field. He got horrible advice. And I honestly think if he would have come back, put the work in, didn't believe in his own hype, he wouldn't have ruined his career, but he ruined his career. And I would tell that to him to his face. And I knew him in college. But he ruined his career. If he would have come back, he had first, second round potential. I remind you of a Notre Dame linebacker or tight end. What is that supposed to mean? That is so weird. Oh, Marcus? Oh, okay. Well, what is that supposed to mean? Yeah, Austin Deculus is a little weird. He's not spectacular, obviously. Speed rushers are the death of him. But he's not bad either. I agree. I think he could be a guard at the next level. So here's another situation. Cardell Thomas. It might be better for him and LSU for him to move on. It might be. He gets a hard reset somewhere else. And, like we were talking earlier about Dwayne Haskins, maybe the best thing for Cardell Thomas is for him to be told, look, no one cares in the underwear Olympics that you pancake people. Sometimes the best thing for you to do is to get knocked down on your butt and be told that you're not as great as you might think you are. That's true, Kane. And honestly, he was just a 4-star, but this is what happens when you have your own overtime YouTube account, or basically he had his own overtime YouTube following, and you're a guard. And he had a horrible injury coming right in. So, no, overtime, he's right. No, he's right. No, none of these kids ask for the fame that they get, which furthers my point. You need to get knocked down. You just need to. Okay? I see it all the time in all different industries. You don't really become great until you knock down. Okay? Bottom line, there are very few exceptions to that. Like, for instance, Andrew Luck was just unbelievable prospect coming out, unbelievable at Stanford, unbelievable when he was healthy at the Colts. That's rare. It's really rare. More often than not, people that lose jobs, people that get beat out, people where it doesn't work out at the first stop, it normally works out better. Don't you think Justin Fields would have preferred to be great at his home state of Georgia instead of going to Ohio State? Yeah, he would prefer it, but sometimes life doesn't give you exactly what you want. And, it's just that simple. Trey Holly, what position does he play, Mogon? And you're right, Marcus. He's a lot better. And that's the thing. Here's a good example of this as well. Okay. Ryan Perrilloux is a great example of this. I could say with near certainty that Ryan Perrilloux would have been a first-round NFL pick if he had gone to somewhere else other than LSU. Dead serious. Because what happened to him, and I will say that I had this on pretty good authority. He had too many hanger-ons. There's just too many people bringing him down, bad influences. If he would have just gotten a fresh restart in college, and I understand he went to Jacksonville State and he lit it up, and you saw how talented he was. I mean, heck, he hung around in the NFL for quite some time for a guy that just played at Jacksonville State. If Ryan Perrilloux would have just gotten away, Xavier Carter's another example of that. Sometimes some guys just need a hard reset. It doesn't all just work out for some guys. But I could tell you that the Ryan Perrilloux story is much more complex than just him. There was a lot of different things surrounding him. And I can say that I have that on pretty good authority. As someone that is very close to him, is one of my best friends as well. And he told me everything. He told me everything about him and a few other LSU players that didn't work out. And you do begin to learn that hard resets are just good. They're just good. And I'm dead. You guys saw it. I mean, Ryan Perrilloux was just scratching the surface on the 2011 team. He just came in and won an SEC title game. We don't beat Florida if he wasn't in on some of those fourth down plays. I mean, he was a rare Louisiana talent. How many 5-star quarterbacks have come out of this state? Not many. Exactly. And Marcus is right on the point there. So, bottom line, if he would have, because there was heavy rumors that he was going to Texas. If he goes to Texas, he probably wins a Heisman and probably wins a national championship, and it's probably as good as Vince Young. And I hate to do shoulda, coulda, woulda been kind of things, but his talent was so sublime. So sublime. Once in a generation, really. And I'm being dead serious about that. All right, guys, we're about to wrap this thing on up. I know there's 134 of you in here. It is tuna steak night, Booger and my baby. We want to eat a lovely family dinner. But as we always say, if you want to super chat, Cash App, Venmo, we can keep this train on moving. Once again, Marcus, thank you for the biggest donation of the night. Robert as well. James with the Cash App. Tony, all of you guys. Oh, that's true. So is that true? If Ryan Paler had gone to Texas, would Colt McCoy have come to LSU? Okay, here we go. Missed. Thank you. Max Johnson or Finley next year. I personally think I like Max Johnson better. He made some pretty good throws this year. Let's see. Randall with the Venmo. I appreciate that. I love Venmos. I get 100% of that. Let's see. Randall, what do you want to talk about? First to answer Miss question, I think Miles Brennan will be the starter next year. I do. I think Miles still has that locker room. But to the other side of it, locker room is pretty young. So a lot of your starters next year are going to be true freshmen that played with Max. So we'll see. But I think TJ is a step behind those guys, but he's still very capable. Eric is a huge Garrett Nussmeier guy. I've watched Garrett's tape. It's not year one good. Not many quarterbacks are year one good, though. And as we stated earlier, you look at a lot of true freshmen that were high-level 4 stars and 5 stars that started as true freshmen. You see a lot of them don't really work out in the long term. I know Kellen Mond was decent, but he started as a true freshman. Did he ever really become great? No. Bo Nix, same thing. No. Matt Barkley started as a true freshman, played all 4 years. His numbers were incredible. But I think some hardship would have done him some good. Christian Hackenberg. The list goes on and on. Joe Burrow's not Joe Burrow without hardship. Justin Fields is not Justin Fields without hardship. Not everyone's story is, Trevor Lawrence. But I will, in Kellen Mond's defense, in the biggest game of the year where they really needed him to be great, because they're never going to beat Alabama, he was great against Florida. In fact, he was sublime. And Werdermeyer was really sublime in that game. Jalen Hurts is the perfect example of hardship because he did start as a true freshman. Then he lost his job. Then he backed Tua up, didn't transfer, bought in, then went to Oklahoma and was second in the Heisman. He would have won the Heisman if Burrow wasn't Burrow. So Eric's all in on Nuss. I like it. I hope Nuss turns out to be that dude. Let's see. Let me see. Randall, I thank you for your Venmo, but what do you want to talk about, my man? Let's see. Flower Mound is a good high school program. I saw someone mention that. It shows 5-star QBs don't mean ish. Okay, here's another good example of this. So Justin Fields with the hard reset. JT Daniels, his true freshman year at USC, was not good. He had bad pass protection. Clay Helton was his coach. I get it. Goes to Georgia. At the end of the year, how many quarterbacks were playing better than JT Daniels in the SEC? He was actually Mac Jones, Kyle Trask good in his starts. So, yeah. And it says more about Kirby, how long it took him to actually play JT Daniels. Georgia, JT Daniels versus Florida, Kyle Trask. Remember, Georgia was winning that game 14-0 when Stetson Bennett got hurt. So if they had just been rolling with JT Daniels, Georgia probably wins that game. And Marcus is right. More 5 stars on a percentage make the NFL, 4 stars, and so on and so on. But it's still an incredible thing. No, Eric, you got to pick one or the other. You can't just say Walker Howard and Garrett Nussmeier, because that's unrealistic that one of them works itself out. See, babe, look, Marcus is $200. We just got a few Venmos. And Randall Grip just gave me a follow. Welcome, Randall, on the gram. So my girl, as you can tell, my girlfriend does not mind me sitting here if the money keeps coming in. Okay, because I always told her, hour and a half, it's tight. But if I see a super chat, I'm going to keep going. So Marcus' super chat is almost done. And we are having tuna steaks tonight. And ask my hey, who's sitting right here, preparing the Brussels sprouts. First off, I got to get this off my chest. Whoever put that nasty rumor out about Brussels sprouts growing up, I want to sue them for defamation. I do. Libel, defamation. Brussels sprouts are freaking incredible.
Do I need to put a beer in the freeze?
Yeah, we were just talking about beer. I was just going to do punch. Okay, we'll do a beer. Brussels sprouts. We just put Brussels sprouts in the microwave out of the blue bag, the bird's eye bag, and it's 50 cents. But you gotta season it. I mean, my girlfriend seasons her food, and I love it.
I have no complaints.
She has no complaints.
You have no complaints.
I have no complaints. I'm telling you, she put me on these tuna steaks, guys. Tuna steaks are where it's at. Tuna steaks. Eric, are you telling me when we get to 3K subscribers, you're gonna send us some tuna steaks? There's some good food in Georgia, though. I like Georgia food. If I were ranking food, Louisiana's obviously number 1. Then it's Texas. Texas is number 2.
No. Number 1 is Papa's Grill.
Number 1. Well, I'll tell you this. My girlfriend's dad, the cat daddy, Mr. Steve Holdridge, is the best cook I've ever been around.
They have not been blessed with his food.
But JJ, I'm telling you, Athens is just an incredible city. But JJ says, I'm going to stick with beef steaks, but you do you. Okay, you stick with that red meat.
I don't eat chicken.
And JJ, you just keep eating that red meat. That costs what, like $50 per steak? These tuna steaks come in $7 packs. Okay? James, I'm a slow sipper, man. I'm a one beer and I got a buzz kind of guy. I'm a lightweight. I'm telling you, and I hate tuna. I hate tuna out of the pack. So I had a preconceived notion that these tuna steaks would be gross.
Okay, just woke up.
Oh, no. The bug has woke back up. She wants to say goodnight.
Food.
Oh, she smells food. Come on. Supposed to say night-night.
Oh, shoot.
No, you're fine.
Sorry.
Baby. Bug just coming in, tearing up stuff.
No, that was him.
Eric, there you go. I know James. James is in Little Rock.
Nice.
But why did the Brussels sprout industry get such a bad rap? One beer and a buzz. That's it for me. No, I'm a 2 and barbecue kind of person. 2 gets my buzz, 3 gets me ready, and then 4 gets me Metairie drunk, and 5 gets me New Orleans drunk. And for those that know the difference, you know the difference.
Oh, little line boo.
Now 6 beers is Slide L drunk, where you just get sloppy.
Sorry.
Shout out to my dudes in Slide L. You know about it though, the Dirty Dell. Rum drinker. Ooh.
Oh, gag.
You know what? I'll never reveal this football player's name, but he was a roommate of mine. Well, he was a next door neighbor of mine at WCA West Campus Apartments, which is where a lot of the athletes stay. And he told me a famous phrase about rum and just liquor in general. And it turns out to be true. The white is all right, but the brown don't go down.
That's about the cheesiest thing.
That's it. He said the cheesiest thing, but it's true. White and clear liquor is fine, but brown liquor is just charcoal. cognac and whiskey.
Cognac, baby, not God Almighty, forgive him. Cognac.
I don't know much
sweetie.
about alcohol.
Cognac.
Cognac,
Good God.
or as Cat Williams says, Hennessy. Cognac. Cognac. You know what the cognac? You know, this was a viral clip, but did you see this when Smokey Robinson?
Look at that tail going.
Look at that! Look at that tail!
Look
Tail!
at that tail.
Tail. So, did y'all see this viral clip of Smokey Robinson mispronouncing Hanukkah on a cameo? Did you see that? So, Smokey Robinson, his next door neighbor, got like a cameo request, and Smokey Robinson on the cameo. And I don't mean to insult anyone's holidays, but he said, "I wish you a happy Chanukah." And, I could not quit laughing at that. I like it when people mispronounce stuff. It is so funny. But cognac, Chalmette drunk. Chalmette drunk that's 7 beers in when you're Chalmette drunk. But still, the funniest joke, if you want some good stand-up, the funniest joke about alcohol is Cat Williams on Hennessy. It's so funny. It's just so funny. And it's, sometimes as a comedian, when you watch these legends do really good bits, you're like, God, I wish I was that good. I wish I was that good. It's the same way you watch like LeBron play basketball. You're like, God, I wish I was that good of a performer. But you see, Bourbon Street drunk is not actually drunk, because when you're on Bourbon Street, streak is a better term for it. When you're on Bourbon Street, you're probably not as drunk as you think you are. You're kind of just caught up in the environment. Okay, when I think of drunk in a social setting, I think of like at like a cabin or like a bonfire, or, if we want to talk about cities, when you're just at like a hotel bar. Now that's really drunk, where you're not really moving around and you're just getting hammered. And that's the biggest thing. Bourbon Street, there's so many myths about Bourbon Street. Number one, Frenchman is better than bourbon. Anyone that's from Louisiana who doesn't agree with that, you're a tourist, okay? Number two is the hand grenade is overrated. Don't ever get a hand grenade when you go to Tropical Isle. Get the Shark Attack. It's a better drink and better presentation. So if you're someone that's not from Louisiana and you're planning your trip after the pandemic to go to New Orleans, I promise you this: the Shark Attack tastes better and you get a better presentation, okay? And a hurricane is way better than a hand grenade, okay? And I'm going to be very cliche, but Pat O'Brien's makes a daggum good hurricane. Love patios. JJ with the comment of the night. Drunk is hanging out at ULL in some kid's apartment that you had no idea how you got there. It's so true. But Frenchman is New Orleans. Bourbon is just tourist. It's New Orleans. If the worst is when, you're down there and some friends who have never been to New Orleans are like, "Hey, we've never been to New Orleans. Can you show us the way?" And then you say, "Hey, look, Frenchman's better. I'd rather go to Barcadia, maybe play a few hands at Harrods, and let's take it easy. I want to go to Bourbon." No one cares about bourbon. I'll tell you this: New Orleans lost some luster, and this is going to sound very sacrilegious. New Orleans lost some luster when I couldn't no longer get Arby's drunk by bourbon. That Arby's would hit different. The Neptune's Monsoon from Port of Call. You know what? I've actually heard of this drink. So anyway, it's weird because like in New Orleans, everyone wants to go to the, Commander's Palace or Brennan's when every place is good. There's more to New Orleans than just Bourbon Street. Jawan says RACEY McMATH just declared for the NFL draft. Good for him. If I were Ed Orgeron, I would tell him to go too. You got your Senior Bowl invite. That's the best he's going to do. And he's going to be a special teamer in the NFL and probably play a long time. And, who would have thought Russell Gage would be a starting receiver next to Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and be a really good one at that? Also, Russell Gage throws better than Matt Ryan, and I'm not lying about that. Who will number 7 next year? Good question. Let's, if you're putting odds on it, Sting would probably be the favorite. So I would put it Derek Stingley at -400 there. I wouldn't want Kayshon to be the number. Here's why I don't want Kayshon to be the number 7. Simply because I'd rather him get that as a junior. And honestly, I think the number 7 this year should have been given to Terrace instead of Jacoby, but, that's not here nor there. And that's not a slight of Jacoby. Jacoby should have gotten the number 18 instead of the guys that got the number 18. But, I've shared this before. Ed Orgeron is not the best at handing out jersey numbers. But that's the thing. I don't think Sting wants it, as Cliff points out. Sting wants 24. Pick 6 Ricks, I wouldn't mind it. So I would still say Stingley's the favorite, but if he doesn't want it, give it to Ricks. Why not? Well, all right, guys. I appreciate all your donations. I hate signing off with over 100 people still in here. But as always, you can hit me up. My email, powerhourlsu@gmail.com. And you can obviously hit up my Venmo. I respond to all the messages on Venmo, whether it be a 25-cent donation or a $500 donation. Marcus, thank you so much for all the support of the channel. Hopefully I answered your question regarding the defensive coordinator search really well. I hope so. Our Grip, thank you. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. That's really good, man. Tuna steaks. So here's what I'll do, okay? I'll post a photo of the tuna steaks if you want to see what they look like. They're not big, okay? I'll post a photo on my Instagram story, and I'll post it on Twitter as well, @Carter the Power. I am the answer. You've been very involved. I really appreciate your comments, man. Be blessed, Carvis. And I'm guessing the next live stream will be on Tuesday, okay? So our next, I say Tuesday, probably on Saturday. We'll figure it out. But what's really cool is it will be 2021 when we have our next live stream. I think that's pretty cool. So yeah. Cheers to you guys. Best of health. Please be safe. Please be smart. I wish nothing but the best. And of course, we'll talk to you soon, okay? It is Power Hour. That was smooth. Look at how smooth that was. Yeah, let's just throw the microphone down. Sounded like Brian Regan there. Eric only cares about Booger. That's one thing I've learned. It's Power Hour. LSU. Boom.